Greetings warriors, this is Black Fist of Red Blades, and I welcome you with another review of an indie game called Cave Story. This is going to be one of those motivating stories about someone who made success with their own hands. Cave Story is a 2D platform and shoot 'em up that was created by one person, Daisuke Amaya, and was published in 2004. I know this is a 15-year-old game, but it's worth remembering one of the earliest self-publishers of the internet age. In that time frame, the game went from free to being published for the PC, DSi, 3DS, Nintendo Switch, Wii, and the PSP. And I can easily see why, so let's get into it. For the base of the story, you are a silent protagonist that is a forgotten robot soldier with no memory of where or how you got to a floating island filled with many enemies and hazardous obstacles. Along the way, you meet the Mimiga, a race of anthropomorphic animals that live on the island and are dwindling in numbers as an old war killed many, and a doctor that traveled with several scientists took several to form his own army in order to try and take over the world. That's no spoiler, the very beginning shows the doctor gaining power and two minions as he retrieves the Red Crown. The first people you meet are the Mimiga, with two of them arguing, which quickly escalates into one of them getting kidnapped as they are mistaken for another character and introduce two reoccurring villains, Balrog and Misery. I like Balrog personally. He's almost every meme I find funny.
What are you?
I'll remember this!
Oh yeah!
Which is a good thing considering you fight the guy about 4 or 5 times. As you go along, you meet several scientists that were on an expedition. You uncover the lore of the island and the dreadful red flowers that turn the Mimiga into Hulks. The story doesn't shy away from the damages the Doctor inflicts on the others in his quest for power. With some of the characters you meet, death is inevitable, and you feel how unfair it is for everyone to face it. I'll leave the rest of the story alone for anyone who's interested at this point, but things do escalate. Cave Story has a good blend of mechanics. The game's aesthetic is cute and all, but it can get merciless at times. Like a descendant of a Mega Man game, there are bottomless pits, spiked floors, ceilings, and walls, water that slows you down, and an egregious amount of enemies placed in some of the most difficult of areas. You quickly collect several weapons that can only shoot in the 4 directions, but each can be stronger as you collect these triangular objects for experience. The catch, however, is that only the weapon that you are holding can collect the experience or power up, and if you get hit, you can also lose the experience. The best weapons to me are the minigun and the spur. The minigun can propel you through the air like a jetpack that you get later on, and has a rechargeable ammo. But the spur charges up like a Mega Buster, and starts at level 3 so you never have to worry about it being knocked down. The spur does come later on in the game, but it's worth the wait in my opinion. I think my choice is justified. Now the game isn't ball busting, but imagine if Mega Man had Luigi's jumping momentum added to him. It is good for reaching platforms that are directly above you, but at times you have this slow startup before you move and switch directions, which can cost you whenever you are missing a ledge or getting hit by an enemy. This often led to me muttering buttery feet or icy ankles every time I missed a ledge or wound up going just a little too far into an enemy contact. But the movement completely changes when you get into water. On dry ground, you have a vertical jump that's at least 4 blocks high, but in water you can barely go over 1. And when you move at a snail's pace, it can add to more problems. This really pissed me off when I was fighting the boss that was the island's core and allowing it to float. Now, in game, it makes sense. You have a core or like an engine, so it's going to need fluid so it can actually keep cool. That completely flows together in my opinion. But I've at least died 16 times to this boss. As the water rises, you either move so slow that you can't even jump over some of the blocks and you wind up getting your ankles clipped by the corner where you don't even rise anymore, or you wind up drowning, in which case either one leaves you dead when the projectiles from the boss actually hits you. And one of them says 20 damage, but even if you have more life than that, it still takes you out. In which case, one thing I want to say is you are a robot. Why are you drowning? Like some old RPGs, if you die, all progress between saves are lost, and it can cause you to go through some cutscenes again and again and again. Now, I've heard of other versions of Cave Story actually having a skip button, but my version on Steam seems to be missing that. It's pretty much built for patches and DLC, so I'm not really sure what's going on. I remember seeing even a Halloween and Christmas themed playthrough, so I am trying to understand what's up with my version. The point I'm getting to is make me a little salty. Aside from that, a part I am unsure where to add is that there are 4 endings the game has at different points, and you have to get things done in the right order the first time to get the 100% route. Now there is another robot soldier named Curly, and you fight alongside her against the core, but if you don't get a certain item before even talking to her in the core fight, you will not be able to save her. At this point, you also can't go back to the last save spot before you even try starting the fight, but that's just something that's kind of small since you can still remember, and it doesn't take too long. But even if you do, you still have to get to a certain ledge or restart from the last save point if you missed your jump. Get a third dialogue choice and choose the right answer, backtrack and retrieve different items for her to fully recover, before continuing other tasks, which also screw your 100% run if you continue on. And all of this is if it's not in sequence, will ruin your chance to go through the full story. Just a thought, but 100% completion usually means that there's a side quest which won't take away from the main story, but if it's this integrated where you need to do something, you're kind of fucking yourself from the beginning if you miss something. And all of that just screams guidebook that you need to make sure you look at before you start anything. It also gets confusing because Curly Brace has a habit of actually appearing in other places with or without reason, so you don't know if you need to do something or if it's just a part of something that you need to fulfill. Aside from that, the art was fine in my opinion. In many indie titles I enjoy, I tend to love the simpler art styles, because even in a pixelated setting, the game can still convey dread, wonder, and excitement. While looks don't seem any more detailed than the old NES games, it is still smooth and expressive. When you do heavy details, they pop. Strange enough, I don't have a favorite level in this though. I can tell you which level can go fuck itself. I would say go to hell, but it's actually the same place. Either way, the scenes do give a wild vibe and ancient structures that are abandoned, then surrounded by enemies, but nothing truly is eye-catching. The music and character themes are fine. I'm no musician, but I feel enamored and captured by the music in the game. When you battle, you have more energy, and in the slower moments, the music is softer and at ease. This doesn't grab me though, and maybe I shouldn't be too harsh, since the game was made by just one person. It just works. That's all I have to say. The game is fun and has a decent story. You get a mixture of different mechanical elements that fit with the world. As far as cons, my version doesn't seem to have a skip button for any of the cutscenes, and they can get way too long. The weather hazard seems a bit much to me, especially since if you just miss a jump, you can wind up getting yourself killed. And I don't really feel that's fair when it's just something that bogs you down, not necessarily your skills. The 100% necessity is very vague, and if you don't have a guide for it, you're going to screw yourself from the beginning, or at least from the middle of the story. And because of how short it is, I do feel like there should be at least 2 more levels. I don't know, I kind of feel like how short some of the levels you can pass through, which you can clear the entire game in almost 2 hours, especially with some crazy speedrunners. This one needs at least 2 more levels to feel a lot more adequate. At the end of the day, Cave Story is a 7 out of 10. I love the game, but that 100% thing still is annoying, and if it had a skip button, I definitely would bump it up to an 8. It shows motivation to me and makes me think about some of the other future creations that I want to try and do, especially with the Pokemon Mega Man kind of fusion of a game. As far as the playstyle. I hope everyone who actually plays the game enjoys it as much as I did, or more. Now, excuse me, I got one last level I need to complete in the depths of hell.